Shalom, parents, and welcome back to another episode of Parenting Teens with Dr. Cam. I'm your host, Dr. Cam. If your teen is stressed out and trying to do it all, but still struggling to stay focused and motivated and is completely anxious, this episode is for you. I'm joined by Oie Dobier, the founder of Project Who Am I, and a mom of two teenagers who is a nature-loving bubble tea fanatic. I love that. You are. I love it. Her mission in life is to help people pay attention to their true self so they can intentionally fill their day with things that leverage their natural talents and things that align to what's important to their life. Today, Oie is going to tell us how to prevent our teens from falling into that stay busy trap and help them find their motivation and focus. Welcome, Oie. I'm so happy you could join us today.
Thank you, Dr. Cam. I'm excited to talk about this today.
I am telling you, this topic is so important because here's what I hear from teens. They're stressed out. They're doing everything. They're just frantic to get it all done. And here's what I hear from parents. I keep telling them they don't have to do everything. They're pushing themselves to do it all. And no matter what I say, they're still pushing themselves. And I think these two are really aligned, and I believe what you talk about addresses this. So I'm really happy to have you here. Please tell us first, Oie, how did you get into this and helping kids find their passions?
Well, it first started out a few years ago. I got passed up for a promotion at a big corporate job, and it made me really pick up my head and look around and say, what am I doing here? It caused me to go through a roller coaster of emotions, including anger. I felt unworthy, and I realized I don't need a company to feel worthy. So what do I need to feel worthy? And when I asked myself that question for the first time in like 42 years, it shocked me that I don't know the answer to that, you know? My number one strength is I'm an achiever. So for years and years, I just went after the next achievement, and that fulfilled me for a point. But there's more to life than achieving. You know, achieving is important, especially if that's your number one strength. But you need other things besides achieving. It's just a piece of what you need, depending on who you are, right? Not all people are achievers. So when I asked myself that question, I was embarrassed that I didn't know the answer, being, well into my 40s. And so I stopped and really asked myself, and I realized I was going after the wrong thing in life. I needed something more meaningful, more fulfilling. And so at the same time, my daughter, our oldest, Naya, she was in competitive soccer in high school, and colleges were reaching out to her because they recruit girls early. So she was a sophomore in high school, and we were kind of thrown into this college tour kind of, scene. And I remember very distinctly, we showed up to a college tour to check out this college program, soccer program. But the academic side of the house, they're like, well, what school do you want to tour? We had no idea. I looked over at Naya, she looked over at me, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe business and marketing, because she's very outgoing and she's creative. And so we went to there, and then we sat down with the teachers, and they started talking, and within 5 minutes, it was very clear. This isn't really for Naya. And I looked over at her, and she had this look of, no, not me. So we went through the whole day like that, just clueless, really. And then as we did more and more college tours, I realized we got to figure out a way to figure this out, right? How do I take the things that I've learned over the years about what career or what jobs really resonated with me, and why did I switch jobs and all that stuff. At the same time, my husband was going through a similar thing. So we sat down as a family and really thought through it. And then I had a friend that had a son that's the same age as Naya, and she had a very similar idea. We need to teach the kids how to do this early in their lives. Mm-hmm. They don't need to go through their whole life and have a midlife crisis to know it. I mean, just think, if they know this stuff early, how much more fulfilling would their life be throughout their life, right? And so we had an initial group of 4 kids. We did some kind of self-discovery exercises with them, and we were just astonished on how enlightening it was to them. You could see their light bulbs go off, and you could see that they were thinking about things differently. Since then, and many students after that too, I've heard students say, Oie, I not only use this information to kind of help myself in decisions in my career journey, but also just in life in general, right? Because, it's all about grounding yourself so that you can make decisions that are right for you, not anybody else, but you.
Yeah.
So that's how it started.
I love that. And I think just it's the best way to start something. You always, I have a problem, which means many people probably have this problem. Let's find a solution for it. And I hear this problem in a lot. And I think there's kind of there's 2 sides of this. It's like you talk to kids and the pressure of what do you want to be when you grow up is huge. Like, how do you decide what you're going to do for your entire life when you're young? You can't. Like, that's too much pressure. But then what happens is they feel like they need to do everything to cover all the bases so that when they do decide, they're not suddenly missing that one thing that they needed to be successful in that thing. So they won't give up anything. And I talk to these kids that are so stressed out. They're not motivated to do the thing, but they're pushing themselves to do it because of the fear of what will happen if they don't do it. So their motivation is fear of, I'm going to come to the end of the line and I'm going to have given up the one thing that will make me successful or get me into the right college. And so I'm just going to frantically do it all. So how do we address this when we're not telling them you have to figure it all out, but also helping them stay focused on what they love rather than just doing everything out of fear?
I think the first thing, well, as you described that, it makes me think of trying to find a needle in a haystack, right? You want that needle, it's somewhere in here, but you're frantically trying to find it and you have no direction. You don't know if it's over here, on the left side, on the right side, on the top of the pile, on the bottom of the pile, in the middle of the pile. You have no idea. So then, to your point, you're just frantically trying to find it. And on top of that, you probably feel like there's a time pressure, right? And so it's like, I don't have all day to find this needle in the haystack. I got to find it now because, I'm going to graduate high school soon. I've got to make decisions around what to do after high school. Is it college? Is it, trade school? Is it something else? Is it gap year? Whatever, right? And so I totally get it. There's a ton of pressure. And so I find it interesting that the parents are not putting the pressure on the teens. The teens are doing it themselves. And so I think the number one thing that teens can do is really just focus on what's important to them. Focus on who they are as a person. Because the reason why, you're frantically trying to find a needle in a haystack is you don't have anything to ground yourself to, right? And so as you grow and mature and explore, you're experiencing lots of things, and some of those things are going to be, oh, that's amazing, or no, that's not for me, right? But what are you grounding yourself to make that determination? If you don't have anything to ground yourself to, then obviously you don't know, am I missing out? Is that a good match for me, or what? And so the first thing they need to do is really look inward. Who are you as a person, and what do I need to feel grounded? And we kind of look at Project Who Am I? We look at 4 things. We look at, what am I naturally good at? Because the old saying is, if if you choose to work on something that you don't have a natural inclination for, then it's like, pushing a giant boulder up a hill. You can do it, but it's going to be a lot of work and a lot of work, right? You might as well pick something that you are naturally good at, because that gives you, a couple steps ahead of everybody else. And then you can grow that natural talent into like a super talent. And that's how people get paid, is when they're really good at something, they get paid more. Then the other thing is values. Values is a huge underrated topic. And I talk to people all day long, teens and adults, and whenever there's a conflict in their life, it's because something's going on that's conflicting with their values, and they haven't really named it. So why it's important to understand what your values is, one, you need to kind of think through that. And a lot of people don't do that. They don't know what their values are. And so you got to name it. You got to think through it, choose your top 5 or top 10 and name it. And then as you kind of go through life, you can see more apparently when things are conflicting with your values. And everybody's values are different. Obviously, when you find a partner in life, when you have friends, close friends, you try to find people that are, closer aligned to your values. Like you have some values that are the same, but obviously, you can't find people that have the exact same values, because you are a unique person. Value is super, super important. And then the third thing is really interests and passions. And so obviously, you can be really good at something, but if you're not interested in it, it's not worth it. And at the end of the day, when you think about careers, jobs, work, there's going to be times where you need to do work and you don't want to, or you'd rather be doing something else, and you need that extra motivation to do it. And that's usually where interests and passions pull in, right? That's the thing that helps you have that extra motivation to burn the midnight oil or whatever, right? It's like, if you have to work hard, why don't you work on something that's interesting to you? I mean, there's a million things to focus on. Why focus on something that isn't interesting? I mean, life's too short for that. And then the last thing, this is also very underrated, is work preferences. How the environment that you work in, the people that you work in, the kind of work characteristics that are, part of that job, it's really, really important. Because, if you love to be outside all the time and your job is sitting at your desk, 24/7 or 8 hours a day, that's obviously something that you're not going to enjoy. So it factors in a big time. So just knowing yourself and how and what are the answers to these 4 things for yourself is really, really important. And what that helps teens do is really have something to ground themselves to, especially those values.
Yeah. So I love this. And it's funny because I work with parents, and one of the things that we always do is find our top 5 values, because that helps us parent and helps teach our kids how to make good decisions, because they're value-based. So I'm all with you on that one. Now, what I'm thinking of, and my mind's kind of going like, when we try to figure out and help our teens figure out what is important to them and what matters to them, that's a big question. And most teens are either afraid to answer that or don't even know how to answer that. I think many are afraid to answer it because they're afraid their answers are going to be, quote, wrong, because they're not what they love, may not be something that they think other people value. And so they're trying to force themselves to value what they think their parents or other people value, right? Or they don't see like, well, I don't know how that's going to be a career if I love, like my daughter loves theater. I don't know how that's going to be a career, but right now, that's what drives her. And if she's passionate and makes her happy and she loves it, and we'll figure out the rest, right? So how do we help our kids, figure out what they love without feeling pressure to do that? and to help them find value in ourselves as parents, find value in what our kids love?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say a couple things. First, peel the onion layers a little bit. So let's just take your daughter, for example. She loves theater. It's always good to just ask them some simple questions. What about theater do you love? And get her to dissect that a little bit, because there's maybe it's the limelight that she loves, or maybe it's the fact that she can be somebody else, or so you got to dig into the kind of the why behind the love for theater, because at the end of the day, that's going to break down to natural talents, values, environment, all these things, and you're going to be able to kind of see why it's the case. The other thing too is do some observation and kind of relate it. Once your daughter kind of gives you those answers about why she loves theater, think back to, her life when she was little. What has she always been good at? And what patterns are you seeing? Because the pattern that you see in your teen is the stuff that they can find anywhere, whether it be theater or any creative outlet. And so I think, teens are unaware that when let's say she loves theater because she loves being creative. You can be creative in any industry. Any industry. And so it's taking that natural talent or that interest, and then kind of, looking at it at the atomic level, and then saying, okay, well, what, when you look at a career and how you want to make an impact in this world, what industry are you most interested in? And then look for the same characteristics, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about right now, is just kind of, understanding a little bit more about what's important to them, and then, observing and helping them connect the dots of the characteristics that they really enjoy and like.
I love that, because I feel that no matter what it is they love, and, I think as parents, we go, oh my gosh, there's what are you going to do in theater? Or I see a lot of parents where their kids love video games. What are you going to do with video games? Well, there's a lot you can actually do with both, right? Because what you're saying is it's not necessarily about the outlet as much as the skills and the passions and the talents and everything else that it fosters, it cultivates, right? And so if they're learning those skills within a framework of something that they love, they're developing those skills far more than if we try to push them into, okay, you need to do this, and this. You need to get, your math done, and they're learning math. They're learning this. They're learning all these important things, but in this environment that is important to them. So let's say we've got a kid who, and I'm thinking of tons of them off the top of my head that I know personally that I've talked to, that are pushing themselves so hard because they don't know what it is that they truly love. And they want to make sure that they've covered all their bases. And when we talk about how stressed they are, and we look at what they're doing and saying, well, what can you let go of? They won't let go of anything because they're afraid. It boils down to they're afraid to let go of it. How do we help someone like that? How do we help a child that's in that state, in that kind of mindset?
When it comes to fear, I think, the best thing to do is you gotta sit down, and you gotta self-reflect, and you gotta name that fear, and you gotta break that down, because, what are you fearing, and why are you fearing in that way? And then do a reality check, right? Is that fear real? And you can talk to your parents about, hey, this is my perception of it, what's your opinion about it? Talk to your friends, all that stuff. Because at the end of the day, fear is your perception of something particular, and you got to lay that out. And then also, this is what I tell my kids: you're big girls and boys now. You got to start thinking about things like an adult, right? How when they're 16, 17, they want to be adults, but they're a little bit, it's like they want to be adults, but they don't want to be adults, right? And
don't we all?
Right. And so I said, you gotta put your big girl panties on and stop doing crazy things, and the staying busy trap is really, I think, an interesting phenomenon. And you need to slow down, and you need to have time to explore your interests. I tell teens this all the time. If you're doing sports, doing work, doing grades, school, doing all these extracurricular activities, when you have time to really explore whether you want to pursue a particular interest for a career or not. You don't have time. So you've got to make time. And this is true of life. I mean, as adults, we're busy. Everybody's busy, right? But how do you make priority for things that are important to you? Yeah. And for us as a family, we like stack ranking. It's like, okay, well, what's really number one? Well, I have multiple number ones. Well, if you really had to choose number one, let's just say, okay, if you have multiple number ones, what's the first number one? What's
the number one of the number ones?
Right. I mean, you got to make a choice. You got to make a decision.
Yeah.
And the thing too is decision making. Here's the thing. I know it feels decisions have to be big and grandiose, but not really. I mean, if you have to choose between 3 number ones, it's not like you need to choose between these 3 number ones for the rest of your life.
Right.
You can choose between these 3 number ones for a month and just say, you know what? I want to focus on, my son loves fish. I want to focus on, having a fish tank and learning how to incorporate live plants into my fish tank. And I'm just going to focus on that. Mm-hmm. And so he decided, and I was very proud of him. He decided, you know what? I don't want to do soccer like I did before. I want more time for other things, because soccer used to be my passion when I was little. But now that I'm older and I see more things, I have interest to do other things. I have interest to build aquariums. I have interest to hang out with my girlfriend. I have interest to hang out with my friends and just do other things. And so he made the decision not to do ultra competitive soccer anymore. Mm-hmm. So he was going to do an all or nothing. And I'm glad his coach talked to him about that. So he was going to quit soccer altogether after years and years. And then he talked to his coach. And so then, no, he's going to step down a level. So that's another thing. I mean, you can still do things, but maybe just at a different level so that it's not so intense for everything.
Boy, I'm so glad you brought this up, because I hear this a lot as well, is they've always loved baseball or they've always loved soccer, and suddenly they're not showing an interest in it, and the parents start to panic. And so I taught, because it's something they've always loved and they've kind of invested in it. It's like, we've spent all this time, going to games and investing all this, and all of a sudden they don't like it anymore. And what's going on? What's wrong? And then I hear kids that are holding on and continuing to do something that they're not passionate about right now because they don't want to disappoint their parents. And so I think what you just said is so key for us as parents to realize is it's okay if they love something and then they go through a phase where they don't want to do it right now. They're burnt out. It doesn't mean they'll never go back to it. Maybe they don't. But to be able to let your kids let go of something, I think is really key. And as parents, we need to sit back and go, why is this upsetting me that they are letting go of something that they are doing, right? Yeah. It's not about us. And yes, we may have invested all this time. We've not wasted that time. They've learned so many skills. They've done something really important to them that they may be pivoting and using them in another way, like you just said. Like, you're developing skills, but there's a lot of uses for them. So when you said that, I really kind of keyed in on that, because that's something I see a lot.
Yeah, so while it's definitely about the teenager and it's not about the parent, I think as a parent, you have to address that, why is this making you so upset? So Dominic wanting to quit soccer, it's been over a period of months as far as him realizing this, him telling us, I'm, like you said, freaking out about it, going, oh my God, why, you love soccer. Why, I have interest in other things now, Mom. And so I had to let go, and there's a couple things about that. If you want to help your kids let go, lead by example. You got to let go.
Yes.
The other thing too is be frank with your kids. We've been doing a lot in our family. Now that they're older, they can handle this stuff. And sharing your perspective as a parent is super important, so they understand. But then it's a two-way street. You got to be available so they can share their perspective and listen to them, because you're going to have different perspectives. You're the parent, they're the teen. So I told Dominic, I said, I'm really worried about this, or I'm shocked, I'm disappointed, all these feelings, because you're such a great soccer player.
Yeah.
And I was hoping it would give you opportunities for college and all this stuff. So as a parent, I want my kids to have the best opportunities in their life. And so when they let go of something, or they want to let go of something, it feels like, they're missing out on this opportunity.
Yes.
But to your point, just because they had a passion for it when they were young, and now it's changing, that's okay. The cool thing, now that we're on the other side of that, situation where, okay, I've come to terms with it, he's kind of moved on and, doing a lower level soccer, I'm seeing his passion for fish, for aquariums, for cars. And so the cool thing, and you talked about this, it is so cool to see them so passionate about sports, and you love it. I mean, as a parent, when he was little, I loved to watch him play soccer because he was so good at it and he loved it. Now I'm experiencing that same love for his fish and his aquariums.
Awesome.
His cars that he wants to enhance and perform. He's just so into it, and it's fun. It's fun to see him into it, just like it was fun to see him be into soccer. What's not fun, as you know, Dr. Cam, is when you're trying to force them to do something that they don't want to do. That is totally not fun.
It sucks. It is not fun at all. And I think, as we're talking about this, the other thing that kind of occurred to me that I hadn't really thought about it from this perspective either is when we make it so difficult for our kids to stop doing something, because we have this like anti-quit mentality. Like we can't let them quit, because we can't teach them it's okay to quit. But what we're saying is, if you make a decision now, you're stuck with it forever and ever, which means that's one of the reasons they are so terrified to make any decisions, because once they make it, they're stuck. They're not allowed to quit. That means, oh my God. So this mentality of you can't quit, I think we need to think about what I get what we're saying. Like, once you start something, we want to see it through. We can't just give up when it gets hard. But I also want to think about, we also want to be able to try stuff. And if we don't like it, okay, we tried it, let's try something else. And so we got to balance that. And when they've lost their passion and they're not into it anymore, making them do it because we don't want them to quit is sending them the message of, once you make a decision, you are stuck for life. And now I don't want to ever make a decision because holy crap, what if I make the wrong one, right?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. We do put that pressure on them. In our family, we're the same way. When you make a commitment, especially on a sports team, what we've talked to our kids about is when you make a commitment to a team, you got to see that commitment through the season, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then because you signed up for this, your spot. You took a spot that someone else could have gotten, and now they chose a different team or a different level, and so you got to take that, live up to your commitment, and now you've been practicing with your team, and so you're part of that, and so they're building their momentum based on you being part of that. So you gotta stay committed to that, but through the season, and then after the season, if you want to make a different decision. So I think, to your point, there's a balance, and just let them know the importance of sticking with your commitment and why that's so important. Again, sharing out loud with them the reasons why we as parents value not quitting is because it's less about not quitting and probably more about sticking with your commitments so that you're not letting people down.
Yes.
You're having integrity, stuff like that, right? And so as you explain it to them, then they can understand it's more about having high integrity, not letting people down when they expect something from you, and stuff like that, versus quitting, right?
Now you're getting into the values. Yes. And that's where the values come into play, because it's not about quitting. It's about integrity. It's about, being that person that is supporting others. So if that's one of your values and that's something you want to instill, that's the conversation you have, which is a very different conversation.
Yes. And then the other thing too is perseverance, right? Yes. We value perseverance. So this is another reason why when the times get tough, you gotta persevere.
Yeah.
Because that's life. And so again, it's just talking with them about your values. And the thing is, we've come across this with our 19-year-old, and it's been very enlightening. Sometimes they're going to take your values and they're going to say, yeah, I value that too. And other times they're going to say, I don't value that.
Yeah.
A great example is this summer. Naya is just finished her freshman year. And so in the summer, my husband, Darren, expected her to get 3 summer jobs or get a summer job and work like crazy, because when he was in college, he tried to work as much as he could during the summer so that he didn't have to work so much during the school year and he could concentrate on his school. So he would work at the American Can making ketchup packets, and he would pick up every extra shift that he could, work all this overtime. And working in an American Can factory is not fun. There's lots of just not fun environments.
It doesn't sound fun.
Yeah. And, I think at the time, 25 years ago, he's making $12 an hour. And at the time, it was pretty good. So, he was enduring all this hardship so that he could, really just focus on school. So his summer, he values to be the time to work like heck. And then my daughter, she disclosed to us, well, I value summer as a time to recharge because school is very intense for me and I need that downtime. And so it was like, wow, very different values of how you should spend your summer, both very valid.
Exactly. And I think that's the key. They're both very valid. And so I think appreciating and understanding their values is really important. So I love this. This is a great discussion. So, Oie, how do people find you and what you do?
So they can find us at projectwhoami.com, and we have a free download. It's a career ideas guide. You can find that at projectwhoami.com/career, and it can be customizable based on your teen's natural strength or natural talent. So there's 6 of them. There's thinker, doer, creator, helper, organizer, and persuader. So you pick the one that they are like most inclined to do, and then you get this guide of 30 plus potential careers, and it's just a way to just kind of say, oh, look through the list with them, see if there's anything interesting. So you can find us there. We're on Facebook at Project Who Am I, and we're also on Instagram under my daughter's handle because she's part of the business. So
Nice.
You can find us under Naya.Dobier.
I love that. We're going to go look at that, although I've learned that my daughter does not like to take these type of tests. We just did a learning styles test, and she was like not happy. And I'm like, well, taking these tests is not your learning style. We've learned that. So any parting words of encouragement for parents with teenagers before we go?
I just want to say teens, they just want to be heard. They want to be adults. And, we're in this stage in life where they're not kids anymore. So we gotta really be our number one goal should be to understand them, to give them space, give them the ability to voice their opinion, and then just realize that they're different than you, and they're gonna take some things from you, and then they're gonna take some things that are completely not you and their own. And that's the wonder of having teenagers.
It is. The wonder of watching a new human being with their own mind and passion and thoughts, watching them become who they are. And it's amazing. Thank you, Oie. I'm so grateful you could join us today.
Thank you, Dr. Cam, for having me.
And thank you, parents, for taking time out of your busy day to spend with us. If you want to learn more about how to help your teens thrive, you can grab my top 10 secrets for raising teens at askdrcam.com/parenting tips. Finally, if you enjoyed this episode and all the helpful strategies Oie shared with us, please take a quick moment to rate and review. This helps other parents like you find the show. I encourage you to share it with a friend as well. Until next time, have a peaceful, positive, calm day.